Turn to the teacher. Turn to the teacher. Turn to the teacher. Turn to the teacher. Turn to the teacher.
What's going on, everyone? Mike here with the Turntable teachers, and class is officially back in session. If you are new to the podcast, welcome. If you are a returning listener, welcome back. If you're brand new to the podcast, we'd appreciate it if you could take a second to hit that subscribe button, whether you're watching on YouTube or a streaming service like Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud. We would really appreciate it. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to leave us a like and a comment. And I'm back with another guest speaker episode, everyone, and really excited for this one. We got Night School episode 59. And on this episode, I have ZEVY joining the podcast. He is a producer, an electronic EDM producer, as well as a DJ. And he's going to be amongst many other things as well, which we'll get into. And we welcome ZEVY to the show. ZEVY, thanks so much for being here, man. Super pumped to have you.
Thanks for having me. It's my first YouTube video podcast, I think, so I'm excited to be on here.
Perfect. Yeah, there we go. So we're breaking some ground here today. I like it.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. So before we start, we have a more of an interesting connection than you might think, and this will be fun. You'll like this. So you can tell Nate Hollenberg, okay, that it was much more difficult prepping for him in high school basketball than it was prepping your episode today.
No,
so,
you interviewed Nate in high school?
I did not, so I'll give you some context. I used to coach at Framingham High basketball.
Okay.
When you guys were in high school. Okay, I was a senior in college, and I was doing my student teaching at Framingham High, and I was one of their head scouts. So I went to Scout Newton North back when they had you, Nate, and yeah, I was about to say.
I played freshman in JV. I got a story about that in a second. But
cool, continue. Yeah. So went back when they had Ethan Wright and Nate. And that was a really, really good team. And it was very, very difficult to prepare and prep and scout them. So I had a much easier go doing this episode. So I thought I'd start off with that. So shout out to Nate. He was a great player.
Did you know my buddy Jason Shapiro or his brother Aaron Shapiro? I think they played. I don't know if they played varsity. Or I think they did probably.
Aaron Shapiro was on JV when I was there. He was a sophomore.
Yeah,
yep.
There you go. So can I tell a quick story?
Absolutely, go for it. Yeah.
So I played freshman in JV basketball at North. I love basketball. I played growing up. And freshman year, we probably had like 17 guys on the team and like 8 guards. And I didn't play a ton. We kind of played everyone somewhat evenly because it's freshman basketball, but I just, it's hard to get everyone time. And all I know is, like, my greatest game of my basketball career was at Framingham freshman year. I, had 12 points in the quarter, and it was the highlight of my life. So
I love it. That's awesome.
Bringing back some good memories.
Yeah. No, like I said, it was on a whim.
Fine.
I was student teaching under the head coach at the time, and I had been coaching for a number of years. I played throughout high school and was on a part of a state championship team for Danvers, and then tried. Yeah, it was great, man. I enjoyed it, and I tried playing at Framingham State. Didn't really work out. Got into the teaching and coaching though. And I coach freshman basketball now, actually. I'm the head freshman coach at Andover High. So that's
awesome.
But people that don't realize, all right, if you're not from Newton, right, or Massachusetts at all, like, no shame that you didn't play varsity Newton North. Like, I wouldn't have made the Newton North team. Like, that team is really, really good.
Legit program, yeah.
Oh, like one of the premier Division I public school programs in the state, for sure. So any high school basketball, Massachusetts high school basketball junkies in here are probably like, yeah, they're pretty good. They usually make deep runs in the tournament, shit like that. So, but anyway, so hey, ZEVY, welcome to the show, man. I'm sure Nate's here.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure Nate's hearing this at some point. He's probably laughing. So he probably has no idea who I am, obviously. But I was, again, just a scout for Framingham High at the time. But a lot of good memories. This is going to
make him way too happy and excited remembering his glory days.
Exactly. So he's your manager, though, correct? 'Cause I was realizing that. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, he is. I've actually been friends with him since I was like 2 years old, basically. So
awesome. Cool.
We have a pretty sweet relationship. I'm lucky to have him.
Yeah, I don't know him too well personally, but again, I recognize the name so much, and I immediately, it was so funny. I was like, he definitely played for Newton North, like no question. It was one of those like because they were the two guys, him and Ethan Wright. Like those are like with Coach Torbert, shout out him, who's out in Arizona now, but he was like, those are the two we gotta worry about. So make sure you get good enough on those two. And I was like, all right, I will. So I just remember that's funny things you remember even years later. So too funny, man. But anyway, welcome to the show, Zev. You were here, obviously here to talk. We'll get into more sports later, but I definitely want to dive into some music right now because
for sure.
That's your baby. That's your big thing. You're, of course, a EDM producer. I just recently got put onto your music. I'm a huge fan.
Thank you.
I really am enjoying a lot of the stuff you're putting out, and I know you used to be a DJ as well. Still doing that a little bit, yes or no?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, during the pandemic, there's not
so much
been as many DJ opportunities, right. Obviously. I did a couple live stream things, but
cool.
Haven't gotten back into the live DJing thing quite yet. But I'm really hoping to start getting back into it soon. So
yeah, fantastic. So talk to me a little bit about like the difference between DJing and producing. Like obviously, like there's a difference, but like in terms of like the mindset and execution of it, because I think like the stigma is that like DJs a lot of times they just press play, right? So like there's so much more into it than that, like or like there can be. So talk to me a little bit about like the difference between the two and like which you sort of gravitate towards.
That's a great question. And I originally like, I've always been interested in music, but I was always like, I don't want to be the DJ because like everyone like just yells at the DJ and like requests songs, especially like in like middle school, high school, growing up, and I'm like, they just press play and play a song, and I have no interest. And then, so really like my first start into music was all about production and interest in that. And then I kind of started to learn more about DJing and realized that it can be something that's artistic and pretty cool. And like when it comes to DJing, there's such a wide variety of DJs out there, especially now, right? Like you get everything from the like A-Track, right? He's like a global DJ, like competitor, like a former one, and he can like do like very incredible artistic on the go mixing. Most like famous DJs can't do anything that he does. So that's like an art form in and of itself. And I try to be good like technically at doing, but I'm not that kind of like a competition DJ, and I don't use like vinyl and that kind of stuff. But the real difference comes down to like, for me at least, like the mindset and what you're kind of there to do, right? When I sit down to make music, it's like it started for myself, and really I try to make it still be that way, and whoever I'm collaborating with, to make something great that makes me like feel something and have an emotional connection to it, and make something that gets me excited and I love. And DJing, it's a performance, and that's what it is. It's making other people happy, and it's makes me happy to make other people happy, but it's just a different mindset of what you're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So in terms of like, so when did you start like actually DJing seriously, like events and things like that?
So again, this is kind of how Nate became my manager at the beginning. It was he went to Harvard and I went to Tufs in Boston area.
Yep.
And I had done the production thing, and it's kind of like the classic transition, like EDM producer and plays live DJ. Like this was 2016, so like the Chainsmokers were coming up, and Avicii had been doing his thing, and Kygo was coming up. So it was like all of a sudden this like producer DJ explosion. And he had a birthday party, and he was like, "Do you want to DJ the birthday party?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" And then I went to Guitar Center, and I like rented one of those mixing boards, and I just learned from the internet, which is what I do most of my learning anyways. And I was like, this is pretty fun, it's pretty cool, and figured you can do some pretty cool shit and transitions, and even just playing songs that people don't know, or like mashups or remixes that people don't know is fun. And then just learning how to mix, like even at a basic level, is kind of, it really isn't just pressing play. I'm not going to sit here and say like it's something that's super, super difficult to do, like basic mixing, but it's still something to learn, and something that's pretty fun.
Yeah, there's a learning curve with a lot of these types of things, right? I mean, regardless of what you're learning. I mean, even like me doing this podcast, like there was a learning curve for that. I had some background in video and audio editing, but again, it's very different. So I mean, that's interesting. I love that. Talk to me. So tell me a little bit. What was some of like your favorite events that you've done DJing and
Yeah,
is
for
there anything
sure.
that stands out?
So my favorite event has to be, it was kind of a off. I wouldn't even call it an event. Maybe more like an after party. Where I did like an opening set for Loud Luxury, probably at like 3 a.m. in a frat house.
That's dope.
It was pretty cool. I was at I think it was a Frank Walker show at the Grand in Boston, and Loud Luxury had played the night before. And long story short, Loud Luxury ended up coming back to Tufs to play like an after party thing with a bunch of college kids, and I opened for them, so that was super fun, and like it was cool opening. And this was right and I think right before the pandemic hit, really, like in early 2020. So this was like they were huge.
Oh yeah,
and things were going. It was awesome.
Yeah, there's this. I can't remember the song now off the top of my head. I'm gonna have to check. Think of which one it is. But there's a Loud Luxury song that I used to listen to all the friggin' time.
Body, maybe that was
it. Yep, that's exactly the one.
Yeah. So this was like right after Body was popping off, and so it was a pretty cool time. And like Tufts is not a big party school. It's not like it's not like clouded like Harvard is or whatever. But somehow we got them to come back to Tufts and do the thing. So like it was like the talk of the campus for a little bit. And interesting stories that like I basically like told people that like Loud Luxury's coming, and no one believed me. And like half people who I invited basically like went to bed and didn't come, and like then it was pretty funny. Yeah,
they missed out then.
they missed out. It was awesome.
That's awesome. I used to actually, so my producer for this podcast and myself, we actually used to live right around the corner from Tufts like a couple years back.
Awesome.
Yeah, so familiar with the area and things that I used to live in Medford's awesome. I really enjoyed living there, but cool. So, and then for you in terms of like producing actual music and making songs, so like when did sort of that like click for you at that time?
That's a good question. So like growing up, I took piano lessons. I think my parents signed me up. And I really didn't like it just because I didn't like playing the songs that they had me play. Like I had no interest in them really. And, I went to like a rock band camp, I think at some point in like 4th or 5th grade. And I actually liked that. But I always like was super into sports. So I never really like pursued music in any way. But I kept playing the piano. Like we had one in our house upright, and I just like really liked learning songs that I liked. So like whether it was a lot of like rap or like How to Save a Life was one of the first songs I remember teaching myself. I always liked playing, and I liked like improvising on top of that, and not just follow. And that's another thing about lessons, is that it's like follow the notes that on the sheet music. Like that's what you're here to do, not write your own thing. And I liked like adding my own things to it. It was fun. So that was the real, low level start. But then senior year of college, I got really into Kygo. I was never a big EDM person kind of before that. I liked it, but I was never like super into it.
Right.
And I thought, just like I was playing his songs on the piano, I was learning them, and I was like, damn, like I want to actually learn how to make the actual songs, not just like the piano version of it. So I started Googling, and then like I just kind of fell in love with it after like a day or two trying to figure out like what the hell is going on. Like I realized how much there is to know in like the production space, and how like complex and cool and like creative it can be. So I dove in and haven't looked back.
Sweet. And I heard that you had dropped a couple songs on SoundCloud, and you had some friends that were kind of trying to push you to actually push it a little bit further.
I think so. The first song that I ever made and put on SoundCloud was a remix of Justin Bieber's "Sorry."
That's right.
And this was 2016. The song was popping off. I think like the first, like I had loved the Kygo "I See Fire" remix, and like this is when it's also SoundCloud was at its peak, and like remixes were crazy. So that's what I wanted to do. And first of all, it's absolutely garbage. I listened back probably like a year or two ago, and I could not believe that I thought it was good enough to put out. But also, like, it got hit with a copyright strike from Universal Music Group, like, within, like, an hour. And I spent like months like learning how to produce and like make this song that I thought was so sick, and like showed it to like all these people, and then it was just gone. But you know, it didn't deter me at all. I guess I had like kind of the ball had already started rolling by that point, where it was like, I just want to keep doing this.
And you're doing. Oh,
maybe I can send you that or something, but it is god awful.
Well, I mean, hey, dude, like, our first podcast episode was not good either. So, like, you get better, and you keep at it
somewhere. Totally,
absolutely. Everybody starts somewhere, right? I mean, I've even like, you know, there's, I mean, how many book authors, like I teach English just for context, and like how many book authors were told like were rejected from their query letters and things like that about trying to get their books published. Or I even know Jay-Z didn't even get his first deal until he was 29. Like, I mean, it's everybody starts somewhere, of course, right? Russ apparently had dropped like almost 1,000 songs on SoundCloud. He was dropping a song a day before one went viral. Like, it's just it's hard, man, especially nowadays in such like the oversaturation. Now, I wasn't as oversaturated maybe a few years ago as it is today, but the ironic part is like your songs are doing great now, which is awesome, and the quality's fantastic. So I will link a bunch of these in the description, guys, and we're going to talk about a few of them now. But before we get to some of the songs, I'm curious like to hear your thoughts on your genre, because I know you sort of sound like, from what I'm gathering, that like it's not something that you're really worried about or thinking about. But like when I'm hearing your songs, just as somebody, as a music analyst or critic, whatever you want to call it, you know, I'm hearing a lot of different. Obviously, you're an electronic EDM producer and artist, but there's a lot of different elements to your songs. I feel like I'm hearing a lot of pop, I'm hearing a lot of soul, even like a little bit of country and melodic hip hop in some of your tracks. So, is there something like to that effect of like when you get in the room with somebody and create it, it's just an organic thing? Are you constantly thinking about genre, or is it just again like an organic thing?
Yeah. What's pretty interesting is that like all the vocalists I've worked with so far are in completely different genres. Or two of them are in like pop, but the others are like in, you know, rap and like ballad. I don't even know what to call it. Like, you know,
like contemporary pop maybe, or contemporary soul.
Louis Capaldi type.
Yeah.
Like ballad music.
Yep.
I've always had a hard time with genre. Even like I remember when I was young, like trying to find music that I liked. I couldn't find a genre that I liked, and like it's always, and like everyone says like genre is stupid, blah blah blah. And like we love, I feel like, just, like, as humans, to compartmentalize things because it's like easier for us to understand. And I really don't sit down with any sort of genre in mind generally. I kind of sit. Maybe I do, but it's like more like subconscious. Like I'm like, it's more of just kind of like a feel or a vibe, or like the instrumentation wise. But it's, you know, genres have blended so much in the last like 5-10 years that it's, you know, it's really, especially like in the pop space, like everything that's pop now is like pop this, like pop, you know, pop country, pop punk, pop like hip hop, dance pop, etc. So I love to just use sounds and things from songs that I like. And I think it all does stem back to pop music. I think there is like some sort of, I kind of feel like any good song can be a pop song, right? Like in any genre, and you see it now with like anything from Latin to like trap to EDM to Olivia Rodrigo, whatever you would call her genre.
Right.
Like all these different kind of genres hit the top pop charts, right? So I've always said like I like things that's good music and that sound cool, and that's what I always stick to, and I hope to continue to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're doing it for sure, and you make an interesting point. I mean, there's especially like a lot of genres there's a lot of cross blending and genre bending and all that, like whatever you want to call that. I mean, even in hip hop, I mean, how many different sub genres are there of hip hop? I mean, you have like the experimental industrial, like like a Denzel Curry, or like, for example, I mean, I'm just looking at my wall here, but then you got more of like the like sort of contemporary hip hop with like someone like J. Cole, and Outkast was a little more jazz inspired. So like there's, you know, there's so many Big Crit, a little more country-esque. So there's so many like different types of categories. But yeah, man, you've worked with some pretty heavy hitters and some awesome artists. I mean, you just recently dropped a single called Golden with Cole Redding that I'm loving. I know a lot of people in our camp are enjoying it too. You've had some other songs you've dropped with guys like Vincent Lima and Sam Vesso and King Soul. So I mean, I guess we can start with Golden, but Would love to hear your thoughts on like, a lot of your collaborations you've had, like what you've learned from, your time working with some of these guys and yeah, it's just the experiences, any sort of memorable moments you've had.
Totally. So Golden actually made the beat for that a year ago, in May, I think, during the pandemic. I was still in college. I was a senior, or I guess I had just graduated, but I was still living at college. I had this studio in my frat house that I'm very proud of. And I was just working. I've always kind of wanted to keep pushing the boundary with adding live guitar, electric guitar to my music. I just love the instrument. I think it can elicit so many different moods, and it's used like, I think a lot of music now is like the mood is actually based on the instrumentation that reminds you of other songs and genres of the past. Like when you start hearing a distorted electric guitar that sounds like Jimi Hendrix or sounds like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, like it elicits a certain mood, just the instrument itself. So I was wanting to do like a pop punk 90s 2000s type beat, like the Lost Kings, I think, are like an electronic duo who do that kind of stuff, and I was listening to a lot of them at the time. So I just put down the guitar, just like one note muted, like a four note loop basically. I put down that beat with I think the drums honestly changed, but with some drums, and that sat on my computer until the fall of this year, where I met Cole in LA, and we actually started working on a different song that maybe we'll finish and put out, but we've done like 3 now. Golden was the second of 3, and I just was going through and was playing him instrumentals that I'd done, and he really liked this one, and he just started riffing, and he just starts he hears the instrumental and then immediately comes out with the melody right away and just starts going if he likes it. So that's what he did, and then he does this thing where he's like, okay, I like it, and he goes and puts his AirPods in and goes, he went downstairs and just started writing, and I was just kind of sitting there working on the beat, probably just sitting there too. And then he comes back up and is got this thing, and he starts singing melodies and maybe some lyrics, and I'm saying, I like this, let's go with that. And it was just super organic. He's an amazing writer and singer and recording artist, so it honestly came together really fast. And then we recorded it 2 days later, did the whole thing in a few hours, and then it kind of sat for a while because I was working on some other music at the time. I was trying to finish stuff up, and I was doing all sorts of stuff, and then I came back to it probably February or March, and I took a little while to the original drop that we did in the demo, or I probably did a year ago, and the demo was totally different. It was pretty crappy. I generally don't like to come up with drops until the song is done, really, lyrically and emotionally, just because I don't generally like a drop to drive the song. I think the lyrics and the song should drive the song, and the drop should go along with that. So I just did a whole new drop, and that's the one that's there now.
I like that end part what you just said too, because I feel like that's why electronic and EDM maybe sometimes gets, I wouldn't say a bad rep, but there's that sense where it's it's all about the drop or whatever, you know what I mean? So I'm glad you're sort of thinking it the other parts of the song influence how that drop is going to sound. I love that. That's awesome. That's almost a backwards by design, but it's cool.
Yeah, I'm definitely a music and song person first. I learned music and electronic music by playing the songs on the piano. Mm-hmm. So it's to me, if you can't strip down the song, any song that I've done, to a piano with chords and melody and top line, then I probably wouldn't have made it. It's just right. That's kind of the music that I grew up teaching myself and how music works. I didn't do any music theory until way after I had started making music. Okay. So that was my how I understand music at the core is a song rather than kind of a beat, I guess, and a drop or whatever.
Well, that's how it should be, I think, and I think if you're thinking in that way, I think it'll have a little bit more, not even longevity, or I think it has more versatility, right? Because I think oftentimes people think about electronic EDM music as just club music. But like, I think your songs could be played in a number of different, facets. They could be played at a party or a club for sure, but I think you could play them on a nice summer day driving down the street, like, or at the beach. Like, there's a ton of whatever it is, right? I think there's a lot of more versatility that way. So I love that. I'm a huge fan of Golden. I really enjoy it. My personal favorite, I would say, because it's a little more in my wheelhouse, I love Waiting on You. I love what you did with that track, and I love King Soul's additions on the vocals. I thought he was vocally just so, again, I hate to use the word versatile again, but so versatile on that song vocally. So he's fantastic.
I'd love to talk about, so Ben, a.k.a. King Saul, is my friend from college. We actually were in a songwriting class my junior year, and we were both like, we're the only two kids in the class who like made music and put it out. Everyone else was kind of either one music student or like someone who was just kind of taking an elective to get art credit. We're like the two in the class that were putting out music, and he actually like had put out a song with 1 million plays on Spotify as like an 8th grader or something.
Oh shit!
And we also were both computer science majors, and so like we had just a lot in common. And we were always like, oh, let's actually make something. Like we did a little bit of like a little project for class, but it wasn't serious. Like, and then senior year, he just came in to the studio I had set up. And I think originally we were honestly just looking to do, I don't think we had any sort of like plan for it. It was just like, let's get together and do something. And I think I started playing him rap beats because like I make them for fun sometimes.
Okay.
And he like started, he's like, all right, I like these. Like, I'll try to write something for this. And then I played him the Waiting on You beat. At the time, it was just that guitar. And that was like the first guitar I had recorded myself that I actually liked, that sounded good. Recording is like an art of itself, and it takes some time to learn how to do it well. Figuring out acoustics and like mic position, all that stuff.
Definitely.
And that also I had sat on my computer for probably like 9 months before he even heard it or anyone really heard it. And he just started kind of like humming the chorus, I think. And we just went from there. And he was like, yo, like I'll write to this. And I was like, sick. Like that's awesome. And honestly, I wasn't sure because he was like a rapper at the time and still is, but like I hadn't really ever heard him sing. So I was like this is a song I imagine like kind of like a female singer. I didn't say this because I was like, I wasn't gonna yuck his yums, but I imagine like a female singer with like a really high voice doing that like Clarity by Zed Fox's like EDM like thing, and I was like, all right, go for it. And then he probably sent me a demo like, or he just sang it in the studio, and I was like, shit, this is really good. Like I really like this a lot. And so he records all the time because he's making his rap music. And he was like, oh, yeah, I'll just record, like, just send me the instrumental and I'll record it. And then he sent the vocals back, and they were really good, too, like the official studio recording. And I was like, this is awesome. And I don't remember exactly now, it was a little while ago, but I think we went back and did that rap verse that comes in at the end. And we were like, it's just kind of like natural for him. And like I thought it'd be cool if we did a rap verse on it. And that's how it came together.
Yeah, it was really great, man. Yeah, and it's funny because like, and one thing I really enjoy about artists like yourself is when I get into some producers and something like that, I tend to get into some other artists that I wouldn't normally, right? Because you work with so many different people and so many different types of artists, so it's like I didn't know a lot of these artists. Like I had heard Cole Redding's name, I couldn't pinpoint like an exact song of his, but again, like you put me on to him for sure. I'm definitely now a fan of his, and certainly King Soul for sure. And then you had a couple of tracks too with Vincent Lima, who is another name that is familiar to me, but I don't know very well. And you had the Escape remix, right? That did do great numbers, and then the other one would be was it Rain in the City? Did I get that correct?
Rain Inside the City.
Rain Inside the City.
Which is a more recent one.
So what was it like working with him?
Yeah, let's talk about Vince. So I guess the one thing I want to backtrack and talk about is that like getting vocalists as a aspiring, especially dance producer, is like the hardest part of the whole thing. It's harder than learning how to make music, in my opinion.
Really?
Especially when you're not in like a music, like if you're not in LA, honestly, for dance music, or maybe Nashville or New York, but really like not being in LA. and being young and not have, it's so hard to find vocalists. So like I'm so lucky that like Ben and I linked up, and he's able to has an amazing singing voice too, even though like he was mostly rapping. But anyway, so Vince reached out to me and was like, do you want, I don't remember when, but he was like, do you want to remix a song or something, blah blah blah. And I was like, yeah, definitely. And then he like didn't really like send me anything, didn't follow up to send me anything. And then so this was summer 2019 when I was actually in LA working in an internship at the place where I have my 9 to 5 now. And he was like, here's the stems, like, here's, make a remix. And remember, like, I had just moved to LA for the summer, bought like these small KRK Rocket 5 monitors, set them up in like I was living in USC student dorm, set them up, and I just started going. And like there's this little like da-na-na-na-na-na, like kind of background piano riff, or it might be a synth too, I don't even remember. But that just came like right away, and I heard the piano because he sent me the real piano, and I had never worked with a real recorded piano before. I was always using like, fake in the computer ones, and I was like, this is sick. And I made that first demo of like probably like 90% of it right there. And then I started working on a different song for a while, and I wasn't working on that remix. And then this mix engineer actually named Miles Walker put out a contest, and he was like, and I can get to him and his background. He was like, I'll do a free mix for an independent artist, like, submit your song. And I was like, shit, all right, I'm going to finish this. And I just kind of like grinded over the next few days, finished the remix. I always like bounce everything back and forth with Nate when I'm working. Like, it's hard to stay in your own head the whole time.
Oh yeah.
It's good to get like feedback. So
1000%.
I was like, and the drops are probably always the hardest part for me, just because I try to keep it part of the song, as we kind of talked about. I don't want it to be like this drop thing. Like, I really want it to be natural and part of the song, and like not feel like a drop almost, or like not feel like a change in any way, just like it's still the song. So I went back and forth with Nate a bunch, and then I was like, I just finished it, and I submitted the remix in this contest, and we won.
Oh shit.
I remember I was on a plane with my mom somewhere, and I got an email saying, or like it was just an Instagram post. He was like, congrats to ZEVY and Vince and Lima for winning the independent artist thing. And we won this free mix from this like Grammy winning mix engineer. And at the time I was not like as good at mixing and mastering and all that stuff. So like that was, and I'm a real perfectionist and pay attention to details. I really wanted someone who like worked with the best to work on, and this, I had never put anything out on Spotify yet, to work with like the first song that I put out. And we won. He mixed it. It sounded amazing, and went up, and it's done great. People have really liked it. And I did not think it was gonna do as well as it did. I mean, I thought it was awesome, but like, it was the first song I ever put out. So.
Right. For your first song, it's one of those things you're not sure like what. And if you don't have like a super established fan base, of course, putting out your first song, how would you? And it's like, or you probably had some people through your DJing and like other songs you'd put out in SoundCloud, but like, how really is that gonna manifest itself on something like Spotify, right? It's a whole different ballgame.
Totally.
It's really cool,
totally.
man.
And,
I love that story.
Yeah, the feedback. I mean, that song still, like, people are like discovering it now and really liking it. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. It seems like it had gotten a little bit of a resurgence, like somewhat recently,
right?
right?
Yeah, totally. Like the Discover Weekly algorithm, like, has been pumping it a lot lately. And then so after that, Vince was like, "Oh shit, like that was dope." Like, I honestly, he also like didn't even expect like me to even like finish the song. Like, he just kind of sent it for fun, and he's like really, really like close to his art. Like, he doesn't like. And I've opened him up a little bit, but like before I made that remix, like he had never done anything besides go to the studio, record piano and vocal, and then put it on Spotify. Like, nothing else. Mm-hmm. Never had a producer, never like, I don't even know, like, and his art's really important to him, and I respect that, and I love that about him. So, and he was like, wow, like, and he like really also did not want to be like in a pop or like a dance music person at all. Not what he wanted. But then it did so well, and he was like, damn, like, this is pretty dope. So we started working together basically in like slowly in a bunch of ways. And then we kind of through that song, we became closer and closer as friends and like as collaborators. And then it got to the point where like, I started basically producing all of his original music.
Okay.
So he just came out with an EP actually last Friday.
Oh,
So
wow.
everyone go check that out. Vincent Lima's new EP. And I produced, I think, either 5 out of 6 of those songs or all but one of the songs on there. We actually recorded 2 of them completely in my house in LA in, I want to say February. And so now like I pretty much work with him on every song that he does at also some amount. Sometimes not a lot. Sometimes I, put drums in and like do a ton of production. He likes to have a lot of it sparse. And Rain inside, and he just sends me stuff all the time and is like, could you do this, or do you want to make this one of your own tracks, or blah blah blah. And now we're working together all the time.
That's so great. And then like so a whim like that, right? You develop such a great relationship with somebody, and somebody that's
awesome.
of his caliber. Like that's really amazing. Love that, dude. Awesome, good shit. And then the final track that you had on that's out as well is you with Sam Vesso, which is called, oh my god, why am I forgetting the name now? What's the Sam Vesso one called again?
Back when this started.
Back when this started, exactly. So how was it like working with him?
It was awesome. So that was all remotely done.
Oh wow.
How it worked is Nate actually was hitting a bunch of different singers this summer and being like, this is some of Zevy's music. Here's some instrumentals he has. Would you like to hop on it? And we had sent a bunch to Sam's manager, and then he was like, Sam likes this one called Banana Pancakes. And I got this. Take a Day Trip, who they're like hip hop producers. They've done like Mo Bamba and Panini. They're sick. They name all their beats after food, and I was like, well, I love food, so I'm gonna start doing that too. So he was like, yeah, he really likes Banana Pancakes. He wrote something to it, and then we kind of just went back and forth over. Honestly, like before we talked, even on Zoom, we had like done a lot of the song. He he recorded it, sent an email, sent it to me, sent the vocals. I worked on some stuff, sent him some ideas, sent him an email. We went back and forth on email for a while and like got a lot of the song done. And then we hopped on a video call and kind of just were like, all right, let's iron out like the rest of this. We kind of like changed the arrangement a little bit. We added a bridge that's in there now. And kind of the core part of the song was there, like from a like chord and lyric perspective. And the drop, that was one of the few songs where like the drop was done before anything. He really liked the drop in that song, and he kind of like wrote to it. So I guess it worked out like that way.
Definitely.
And I changed actually the verses completely. Like all the instrumentation from the verses was different originally. It was like some weird sounds. It's actually, I accidentally had this like really weird steel drum sound in the original beat that I sent.
I like steel drums.
And it was like so bad. Like I don't even know how it was like an accidental thing. I just remember that. And so we went back and forth on email, and then Sam's like an amazing vocalist, and like he's very professional, and he's worked with some big artists in dance, and like he knows how to like he records all his own vocals and does most of the processing on them and like all that stuff. And so he's like, just sending me like fire vocal stems, and I can just kind of do my thing with them. So that was really easy to work with.
Sweet, man. And so not only like working with a bunch of different types of artists and different people, but it seems like you worked with them in different ways, like different facets of collaborations. So that's really cool. I love that. So my question to you is like, after working with all these artists, like what, my last question on this topic is like, what have you learned like overall? Like how has it really helped your growth as a producer and as an artist yourself?
Totally. I think you kind of just said it almost, in that like everyone's so different with their process, and every situation is so different, and every song is so different. And I hear that a lot. People, are always like, every song is so different. I'm like, then how come all your songs sound the same? But no, even like making two similar songs with different vocalists, or even two similar songs with the same vocalist. It's everything is, there's so many variables to music, and that's why it's still. You have hundreds of years of music and there's still crazy new things coming all the time. Is there's just so many possibilities that every experience is different, and at least for me, like I feel like I am never close to like done learning as a producer. Like I feel like I've come such a far way as a producer in like all areas, whether it's just like doing vocal production or adding drums to one of Vince's ballads, or like even though like I've learned so many things, like you will never be close to done learning about making music. It's just so like variable. And I think the only one of those songs where like I feel like we did most of it in a session was with Cole. Everyone else, like we did a good amount, and then like they would go off and write a lot, and then they would be like send it back, and I'd be like, all right, change this, and then like they'd go off and write a lot. Cole, I feel like we did a lot just like in that one session, which is pretty cool. Like I really like songwriting, and I think I'm confident in my like songwriting choices and lyrical choices. It's like I've been kind of writing songs since I was really little. I'm just a terrible singer, so I can't express that. But when I'm working with people, I can do it through them.
For sure, man. Love it. So guys, listen, and this is some great stuff here. I like all this music too, and like again, I do enjoy electronic and EDM music from time to time. It's not like one of my top genres I gravitate towards. Like I've seen like Louis the Child in concert, and like I enjoy them. And obviously you had mentioned Kygo. I'm a big fan of Kygo. Kygo has this, I've had maybe said this before on the podcast, maybe once, but a couple way episodes ago, but there's this app called Calm that I use all the time. I'm not sure if you're familiar. And a bunch of different artists have like albums that are strictly on Calm. And it's more of like a meditative app where like it's more meditative music.
Mindfulness app, yeah, I know.
Yeah, you got it exactly. And Kygo has an album on there, and it is absolutely brilliant. It's like
is it all piano music?
Yeah, I listen to it all the time, dude. It's so amazing. Like especially if I'm just like in a work zone or something like that, and I just need like some instrumental music, or if I'm trying to actually meditate, or even when I'm hiking, like whatever it is, like it's really great. So, I think that. Like I mentioned before, I said this a little earlier, where I think there's a certain and there's a lot of things that happen this way, of course, but there's a certain stereotype or stigma I think that is a little unfair to electronic and EDM artists. Actually, you're probably one of the first EDM electronic artists I've had on the podcast, and that's another great thing with that about just again to show that versatility and that there's artists out here doing more than just what you think that you like would go and listen to at a club, you know what I mean, or a party. So. I'm a fan. That golden track's awesome. It should definitely make your summer playlist for sure. You won't be sorry.
Thank you.
Add that to your summer playlist. I will link all those songs in the description so that way you can go check them out for yourself. And yeah, so like what's been one of your favorite songs here? I think you said, you mentioned to me earlier you like Golden. That's the one you're really proud of.
I think the song I'm most proud of is definitely Golden, just because of how much I was involved in the track from start to finish. Yeah. And I started mixing and mastering my own tracks with back when this started. So the past two, I've kind of done everything, and I just like playing from like just doing a simple guitar loop in my dorm room or whatever till like coming to LA, recording the vocals, tracking on the vocals, orchestrating kind of like with Cole, like let's get these harms and let's do these doubles, and like vocal producing the whole thing and just doing everything from start to finish. So I really like it, and I think the kind of vibe of the song is where I kind of want to go with my music going forward. I've always liked, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like happy-ish songs. I know it when I hear it. It's like a certain vibe, and I like making kind of more serious, intense stuff too, like some of the songs I've done with Vince. But stuff that I guess songs that make you excited is the easiest way to say it.
Just more, like more of a colorful and like bright. There's like a brightness to them. Yeah.
Exactly.
For sure.
So that's definitely my favorite.
Yeah, and one of the things you mentioned too, I love that you were talking about like growth, right? And it's interesting because Golden's your most recent song, and it feels like you had your most hand in this particular song. So like that just shows your growth from where you started to where you are now. And I love what you said too about, and that's why I like why our platform. I think we're all about education and learning and things like that. But especially like, and I've realized this too, where it's like this industry. There's so much to learn. You can't possibly learn it all. Like there's always something new that you can kind of grasp onto, whether it's, in any creative space, right? Whether you're making film or music or podcast, whatever it is, like in the creative space, there's always so much to learn. And there's so many new ways of doing things and technology and et cetera, et cetera. I don't have to tell you that, but our listeners, I'm sure that, it's good to dive into that and realize like, you're never quite where you want to be, and that's good. It's that fire under you is important to have, So.
Totally, and I think that's like a twofold thing. It's like you're never quite where you want to be in terms of like industry success. Even like Drake is still like fighting for #1 spots, even though it happens most of the songs he puts out. But also from an artistic standpoint, like one of my roommates actually, I'm lucky enough to live with another producer by the name of Gazzo. His name is Mike Gazzo. Is like one of the best musicians and producers like I've ever been around. Actually, the best, and he like knows everything, and it's unbelievable. But like I'm sure he's still, and he says like he's still like learning and experimenting with. And he's been at it for a long time and had many huge songs. But he's always learning more. There's always more to learn.
There's always more to learn, exactly. And that's the drive. Cool. Yeah. It's the drive that makes you actually want to continue doing this, right? It's kind of like I said, it's the light that's lit under. You mentioned it a couple of times, and it's on my list of things to ask you. So I definitely want to dive into this. So you're from Boston originally, well, Newton, of course, but Boston area, and you relocated to LA. So what's that transition been like for you, and what kind of opportunities has it kind of presented for you?
I mean, so it's definitely been a hard transition. I grew up in Newton. I went to school at Tufs. I was in Boston. I had my family and friends around me like my whole life. And I moved away from pretty much all of them. So that was obviously, and that was tough. It's been a tough transition. But, it's something I've wanted to do for a while. And the benefits of being in LA as a musician and producer are, insane. Like whether it's, besides just like kind of the networking and being around people who are really successful in that space, is also just finding other artists to collaborate or just like talk to about being an artist. Even if you're never going to make something with them, like you have a lot of shared experience just being an artist and trying to make it in music and, working really hard, and also just being super passionate about music. Everyone who moves to LA for music has got to be pretty passionate. So,
oh yeah.
I've met a ton of artists already, and I'm sure that's only going to continue to happen and grow.
Definitely. What do you miss most about the Boston area?
I might say dunks, like having a Dunkin' no matter where you are. There's definitely some in LA, but like they're hard to find.
Too many Starbucks?
Yeah, too many Starbucks. I don't actually drink coffee. I just love Dunkin'.
Oh, gotcha.
I can get the egg and cheese. In college, there was one like on the bottom of my. Like I live on a hill and right on Boston Ave. I don't know if you know that Dunkin' Donuts, but I used to go like 4 times a week and get an egg and cheese or something. Or a muffin. Yeah. I miss dunks. Definitely like the Boston culture and Boston sports culture. But I rep really hard in LA, so I do what I can.
Good. Wear those Celtics colors well out there amongst all the seas of purple and gold.
Yeah, exactly. So I rep hard out here.
Awesome.
Out there. I'm in Austin, Texas right now. But
right.
I'm trying to think. And just the like, I don't know. It's hard to explain Boston culture, and I'm sure like every city says we have this, but I think it's special. So.
Boston is. Yeah,
it's got a. I think it's a pretty special place. So it'll always be home. But being in LA is super sick too. So
yeah,
I miss the rain a little bit too. It never rains, and so like when it does rain, it feels like home and it feels good. So
Interesting. You know, there is something about a rainy day every once in a while that's not bad. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't want to be in Seattle where it rains like almost every day, but like you want at least New England. That's a lot of people that have come on this podcast that are from the Massachusetts area or New England area, but then have like relocated. They say that a lot. They miss like the seasons and stuff like that. You know. So
I shouldn't say the season more than the rain. It rains, whatever.
Yeah, I get you.
Like it was like sunny for like from when I moved in August to like November, there was 0 centimeters of official rain or something.
Wild.
Like there was just no rain. So when it finally happened, I was pretty excited.
Yeah, for sure, man. And yeah, you're right. I mean, Boston's culture is its own thing. Like I know people, I do rep that about their cities, but like, yeah, Boston's very unique. We're very prideful, very for sure, right?
Yeah.
We obviously got the Boston accent and all that stuff, and just there is that culture to it. Like when you watch a movie set in Boston, right, whether it's like The Town, right, or The Departed or whatever, like it has a certain tone, it has a certain energy to it, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So, I mean, for people that aren't like super aware, that aren't from Massachusetts or Boston listening to this right now, but so I have a couple questions for you, and I think you're gonna enjoy these, and I'm gonna give you like 2 of them a little rapid fire, and take a little time if
Love
you need
it.
them. So you're a big sports guy, as you mentioned. I'm a huge sports
Huge.
guy. We played the same sports growing up. You played soccer and you played basketball. So out of the 2, which did you like better, soccer or basketball?
It changed a lot as I grew. I liked playing soccer more because I was better, and I liked basketball more to watch, I guess I could say.
See, I'm opposite. I'm a better basketball player than I was a soccer player, but I loved soccer. So I'm with you on that. So briefly, you were. I should backtrack. As a kid, you played for FC Boston Bolts. Is that correct?
I did.
And then you had a brief stint at Wesleyan. Is that also true?
Yes, and
defenseman.
that's where I actually met Vincent Lima.
No shit, really?
Yes.
Did he go to Wesleyan?
Yeah, he played hockey there.
No way, I didn't know that.
That's how we met.
So cool.
And then, as I was saying, like I played soccer there briefly, and then I came to Tufs, and we kind of like stayed in, like we both. He didn't even actually do music much then, but it's a small school, and we were in a similar like a music type class together. So we like knew each other, but didn't. Neither of us had like started really putting music out yet. But
Okay.
yeah.
So you were a defenseman.
Continue.
Is that also correct? Defenseman. So
Yeah, I was mostly.
Mostly cool, interesting. I was a defenseman as well, so that was my. I had one game. No, sorry, I had one season as a soccer player where I scored. I was in. I want to say it was 7th grade, and I scored like 12 goals in the season. Like I went insane, and then I never scored a goal up until that season, and I never scored a goal after that. It's the craziest shit.
Funny.
So it doesn't matter, irrelevant. Nobody probably cares. But either way. My question to you: what's the craziest soccer game you've ever been a part of? Like craziest moment you've had as like a soccer player?
That's a good question. Craziest?
Like, was there like a wild game you were a part of? Like huge comeback?
Definitely growing up, I was part of some wild games. Like my Newton like area travel team was like one of the best teams like in the city's history. We had like 40 games undefeated.
Oh shit.
Like one of those games like winning the league or whatever in like a 6-4 overtime game. The Boston's like playing. I never really got to play high school soccer because I played for the Bolts, which are an academy team. And like no one like people don't come to those games. Tons of college coaches do because it's like where the best players are, but it's not like crazy atmosphere type thing. So I guess that one when I was probably like a 4th or 5th grader was the craziest.
I love that. That's awesome. And then you played briefly. You said you played briefly for basketball at Newton North, and for people that don't have context, there are 2 leagues in Massachusetts. Really, there's probably 3. You could probably not definitely. You could probably put the Hockomock in this, but from what I've seen, I think the Bay State Conference is maybe one of the toughest conferences. It's definitely for basketball. I'm not sure about soccer. I don't really know too much about soccer, but I know for sure it's good. Yeah. Well, it's all Division I teams mostly, right? There's a couple of Division IIs, but it's a tough conference. It's just, I think, all right, put it this way, just athletics in general. Like I was really more witness of the basketball, but so my question to you is, what was the toughest team you faced in the Bay State Conference, and your least favorite team to play in the Bay State Conference?
All right. So the best, I mean, playing freshman in JV basketball, the way like the toughest doesn't necessarily equate to like the best varsity programs. Because
Right.
some teams put juniors on JV and they're like really good. You know, it just depends. I remember Braintree being the toughest game, just in terms of like a physical standpoint and competitiveness. They played us real tough at the freshman level. And my least favorite to play had to be Needham. We hated Needham. They were a big rival. So was Brookline, but we really didn't like Needham. There was you know, there's a
That
lot of beef there.
Tough gym to play in too, because it's so compact and
totally.
small.
So
yeah,
compact. I think there was like, I think my freshman year there was like a ton of like Facebook like chatter going on about the freshman game. Like they used to have a freshman fan section. Like a bunch of the freshmen, it was pretty. Yeah, I know it's pretty ridiculous, but like, they used to have like this like freshman fan section that would come in and like do their thing, and like we were like undefeated and they were undefeated, and or something like that. We were a really good freshman team, and there was like a lot of Facebook chatter. So that was probably like the most hated rivalry game of my basketball career.
yeah. So to answer my own question, you guys were for sure the toughest. That's like out of everybody I scouted and just playing, like we were competitive with every team I think except you guys. Like especially the year I was there. We like I know Framingham historically basketball they didn't have a great year, but I think we went to the tournament for the first time in like the 10 years when I was there. It had very little to do with me, so I'm not that's not a brag. But in terms of like the teams I got, Braintree definitely, and I'd say Needham too. Those are like, but in terms of like for us, like Natick was our big rival, so we hated playing Natick. That was like our least favorite team.
Gotcha.
But Newton North was tough, man. You guys were a tough team, and playing in your environment too. Like I just remember like we were not in that game ever. Like not from the tip of the ball. We were never in that game. Ethan Wright took over, and that was it.
He's a great player. He's
He's playing Division One.
Princeton.
He's Princeton. Yeah, he was real. Oh, it's fantastic. And then there was. I mean, Needham had good teams back then. Players back then.
Yeah,
too.
really
Like
good teams.
Tom Shaughnessy, I remember him. He was a Division One player for a little while, and then Alex something. I can't remember his last name either. But it's funny. I guess funny how you look back and think about these things. Really cool. And then my final question on this little rapid fire here. Actually, I'll probably have a few more after this because I have a funny feeling which you're going to choose. But favorite New England / Boston sports team.
It's
Professional
the Celtics, undoubtedly.
Okay,
I'm
I love
die-hard, huge Celtics fan.
Me too. I'm a huge Pats fan as well. I'm definitely a fair weather Bruins fan. Like I'm into them now because they're actually doing well. Same with the Sox. Like I'm the classic, basic white girl summer. I love going to Fenway once a year, right? Yeah. But besides that, so I'm with you, Celtics. So my big question to you, they're struggling. As we're recording this, when this comes out, they'll probably already be swept, if not gentlemen sweep. And I will be on record here. I know you don't like the negativity. If I am wrong, I will come back on this show and I will, at the very start of the next episode, I will admit that I was wrong. But the way it's looking, it's not looking good. It's not looking good.
No,
so
I'm not going to deny that.
If you were Wick, okay, or you were the owner of the Celtics, okay, what would you do to change this team? To put them in a position back to basically where they were last year. Yeah. So what changes would you make if you were the owner of this team, if any? Maybe you run it back. I think you're crazy if you're going to run this team back. But what would you do to this team to make them competitive again?
For context, we probably talk about this in I'm in 3 different Celtics group chats with different groups of fans from different walks of life. But we probably talk about this every day, I would say.
I love it. I'm ready.
Actually, my former freshman assistant basketball coach, who was a teacher at North at the time, is in the chat, and he called into Felger and Maz the other day to give it.
Dude,
to give
Felger
his take.
And Maz, love it.
So we're legit, sports fan.
Oh yeah,
but I would. Yeah. So if I'm the owner, I don't think I'm moving on from Danny Ainge in any way, shape, or form. I think he's done great. I think Brad does need to be seriously looked at. I think they need to consider moving on from him. Even though I like him a lot, and I have, and we've been to 3 out of 4 Eastern Conference Finals, and I do think we need to relax a little bit. And look, the Nets are nasty. We had the worst, COVID missed days. We've had a ton of injuries, etc. But I do think Brad needs to be looked at in terms of just how he's been able to maximize the potential or like the ability of a good team. He's done an unbelievable job with like pretty much like nobody castaway teams. And Isaiah Thomas is my favorite player of all time.
Oh, he's so good.
Putting
That year was incredible.
It was so fun. Like I would
to
trade
watch.
this. I mean, it's like careful what you wish for. Right? Like when everyone was saying that, I'm like, oh, we need like actual superstars. This team is never going to win, and they're probably right. But it's like, we brought in actual superstars in the 2018 or whatever sophomore or junior year was with the Kyrie year, Kyrie's last year when we were a disaster, similar to this year.
Disaster, yeah.
I guess it was 2019. So they've been unable to figure it out and like have a team that plays well and be talented, for probably since Pierce and Garnett left, right? Like they've been an overachieving, an overachieving team that's not good enough to win or doesn't have a ton of talent, or a talented team that underachieves badly.
Right.
And I think I wouldn't say I would fire Brad, but I would take at least consider it. I think what has to happen though, mostly, and this is a more Danny Ainge thing, it's not ownership thing, but from a personnel standpoint, we gotta bring on some veterans who are just good basketball players. These teams that we play against, it's like Shemi Ojeleye and Grant Williams. I mean, not now, but it's like our bench, and you have Romeo Langford getting in the game. He's a good player, and Young, whatever, and Neesmith, the rookie, who's been great. But like these teams have 7-8 year vets who are just like good NBA players. Like people like Andre Iguodala, who killed us last year in the Eastern Conference Finals. We didn't have that, and that's, I think, needs to be paired with the young guys. Who are talented. But at the same time, I'm really not one of those like panic, jump off the ship type of people. You see this happen all the time. Like if you look at Philly last year, people could have said the same thing about Philly. Like they had injury problems, right? And they got absolutely demolished by us in the first round. And Embiid looked slow and lazy, couldn't guard the pick and roll, all this stuff, right? But like they come back, they get healthy, they bring on a couple, they bring on Steph Curry, and they bring on some veteran pieces that are
Danny
Green. good NBA players. Yeah, exactly. Danny Green and like veteran good NBA players, and they're the number one seed and playing great basketball. So I don't think that we need to push the panic button. That's my answer.
No, I agree with you to a point. I would absolutely say I think Brad should get one more year. If this team is back where it is again next year, I say you have to move off of him. But I'm with you. I've liked Brad. I think he's done a great job. By no means am I like an anti-Brad guy. I do think he's part of the problem. I think he's a little uninspiring, even though he's a fantastic X's and O's guy. Yeah. I think this generation of the NBA is a little different than it used to be, unfortunately, as well, for better or for worse, however you want to look at that. Talent across the league, though, you can't argue that. This, like, in terms of the talent around the league, there's, I think, more talent now than there ever has been. I'm with you. What I've been saying, I would like them to model something similar to Philly. So, like, what they did. I think the only really trade bait you have that you're willing to get rid of would be someone like Marcus Smart in the final year of his contract. I know he's the heart and soul of the team. My brother's going to kill me if he ever hears this.
I'd ship him out.
I'd get rid of him.
It comes to the fact of what the NBA values now, and it's not players like that. And as much as I know we all love his heart and effort.
Him. I really do.
But the NBA devalues that. They call fouls when he plays hard, and like it's... I think it also... I would not be afraid to move on from Marcus Smart. I really wouldn't. I think it's someone you have to... It sucks, and you have to bite the bullet, and no one wants to do it, but...
Yeah.
I'm for that. And I think... I will say, if you look... In hindsight, the Kemba signing was kind of a disaster at this point. I think
it's tough to say.
He's basically, like, cap-wise, we're basically locked because of his $40 million a year. And
no one's going to want him.
His performance is like, we could pick up someone for $1 million tomorrow and probably would play just as well as he's done. And it's been a disappointment, but we kind of panic signed him after Kyrie left, and I don't, I liked the signing at the time. I don't think
too.
it was a bad decision at the time. It's just it ended up to really bite us in the ass.
Yeah.
So
Well, you still had Gordon Hayward at that point, so you still as
Yeah.
well. So you thought like, okay, if Kemba can be your fourth option, then
Yeah.
great. You know what I mean? So like,
Totally.
even some nights, like I think Smart gets a bad rep in the sense that like he's a little better offensively than people give him credit for. Like he's streaky,
Absolutely.
but he's definitely improved his game. He was not what he was when he came in the league, where he had like basically no offensive game, no jump shot. He can at least. My problem is his shot selection and like
Yeah,
late in
that's
games shooting it too much. My other issue too is like you have to think about anybody that's trying to say you move off Brown or Tatum right now is freaking crazy. You don't do that.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll
agree.
say about Tatum is I can't watch him bitch anymore to the refs. It drives me insane.
I don't
because,
like Jason Tatum. He's not a likable player, unfortunately. Like as he's the most like unemotional, like lethargic guy.
I like Jaylen Brown.
I'm not gonna
much more.
say I'm not gonna say I don't like him. Like as a Celtic, and when he scores 60, I'm going fucking nuts. But
Right.
like I wish I'm so with you that the bitching to the refs is unbelievable to watch. I wish that he showed emotion. Tatum's a stud, as much as it's frustrating when it's not going well.
Right.
He's a stud, and he's been to 2 Eastern Conference Finals as a rookie and third year player. Like and he wants to win. Everything he says, like if you ever listen to him interviewed, is absolutely perfect. Like he's just like, I want to win. I'm for my team. He says everything perfect, and then he kind of gets on the floor, and it seems like he doesn't care about that anymore. And I think a lot of that is on Brad. I think that's something that, as a coach, he doesn't seem like a player's coach. He seems like an X's and O's guy, as you said.
Right.
Motivating Tatum, I think, is the number one most important thing on our team, and making him do the right thing. Right? Like your stars control your team.
Exactly. And I don't think you move off Brown or Tatum right now, but maybe in a year or two, if we're still in the same boat, maybe. I think this year it was more about the supporting cast than it was either of them.
Yeah, it was
and
brutal.
of course, I mean, I'm with you. Like this year, great. Take out Tatum's 2 50-point games and a 60-point game. I thought Brown was a little more consistent, and I thought he made the leap, like especially early in the year, like his mid-range game, like what he was doing, like with
Unbelievable, yeah.
He's improved so much, and it was crazy. I've been
much.
on record. I tweeted this when they drafted him because people were getting so much. They were getting so much flack for drafting this guy. Oh, because he shot 27% from three in college and blah 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 blah. I was like. And I'm a huge college basketball guy as well. I was like, mark my words, 3 to 4 years down the line, people are going to be loving this guy. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that said that, but like, yeah, because people were like, who, like, but no one was watching him from out here because he was at Cal. He's a freaking intelligent guy too. He is a smart motherfucker. That dude is going to do some amazing things once he gets out of basketball. I wholeheartedly believe that. He's already doing them now, but interesting. I'm glad to have someone on here I can have a little Celtics talk with. This is always good, Zevy.
Turn this into a Celtics podcast. There's already enough of those, though.
There's plenty. Yeah, there's plenty. But maybe you and I got something here. Maybe we jump on again and we do a Celtics.
Maybe not. Yeah,
maybe. Why the hell not? Right? Why the hell not? Or Boston sports, whatever the case. But Zevy, you've been amazing on this episode, man. Thank you so much for being here. This has been great.
A great time.
No, for real. I have one final question for you. This is my favorite, and it's usually everybody's favorite question. This is the dream song scenario. So you get a song, all right? You can make this with any artist, dead or alive. Of course, you're the producer, so you will be the producer of it. Usually we ask artists like who they want to produce and who else they want on the song. So you get a song. You get 3 to 4 collaborators, so you can get maybe another producer on and some artists. So if you are doing a dream song by Zevy, who is on that song, dead or alive? Take all the time you need.
All right. I'm going to have one more producer. I'm going to put Elenium.
Ooh,
is going to be
love
the
it.
producer.
Love it.
And I want singing. I think I want Chelsea Cutler in there. She's also a NESCAC soccer player, former.
Oh, was she really?
She played goalie at Amherst
did not know
for 2 or 3 years.
She's talented.
And Quinn. Quinn 92.
Yeah, Quinn 92.
Quinn, Chelsea Cutler, me, and Elenium, and let's rock it.
Rock it. I love that. I think that would be a hit, man, especially with that type of energy and things of that nature. So I love it, man. Zevy, great dream song, great Celtics talk. I loved all the singles. Mike. Guys, really definitely go check this stuff out. Linked all in the description. Zev, tell the people where they can find you.
Find me on Instagram at ZEVY Music, on Twitter at ZEVY Official, TikTok at ZEVY Music. whatever else the kids use these days, it's probably at ZEVY Music. And yeah, Spotify, ZEVY, Apple Music, ZEVY. That's whatever else. Deezer, I guess.
Love it, man. Good stuff.
Thanks so much, Mike. I had an awesome time.
Yeah, I loved having you guys. If you're a fan of ZEVY coming on to us for the first time, of course, like I said at the beginning of the episode, make sure you subscribe and follow us at Turntable Teachers on Instagram. Hit up our website, www.turntableteachers.com, for all the latest blogs and episodes, all that good stuff you guys already know. Make sure you, of course, smash that subscribe button if you have not already. And ZEVY, thank you so much for being here, man. We will definitely tune back in with you at some point. We'll be plugging away your music, and best of luck to you in the future, man.
Turn,